Chosen one, 7 signs your spiritual awakening is over. It's time to use your powers. You were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life? Rumi. If you've been walking the path of awakening, searching for signs, questioning your purpose, and doing the deep inner work, this message is for you. The journey of awakening is not meant to last forever. There comes a time when the seeking must give way to embodying. In today's video on spiritual wisdom, we're uncovering 7 powerful signs that your spiritual awakening is complete and that it's now time to rise into your true power. Are you ready to stop waiting and start becoming? Let us know in the comments. Which sign resonates most with you right now? Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're ready to step into your next chapter. 1. The awakening has ended. Now begins the mission. You didn't awaken just to wander endlessly through the landscape of seeking. The spiritual awakening you experienced wasn't meant to be your final destination. It was merely your initiation. A door cracked open, giving you a glimpse beyond the illusion. And now, the universe is asking you to step fully into the light of your purpose. You've read the books, watched the signs, healed the wounds, and shed the masks. But awakening is not where your journey ends. It's where your mission begins. So many chosen ones become stuck in the comfort of awakening. They cling to the process like it's a destination, constantly searching for more answers, more synchronicities, more messages to confirm what they already know deep within. But the universe doesn't give endless confirmations. It gives you a window, a moment, a nudge, and this is it. You've seen through the illusion. The veil has lifted. The layers of false identity have fallen away. Now, action is required. You are not meant to keep waiting for perfection, because the world doesn't need perfect. It needs present, awake, aware, aligned. You've been entrusted with insight for a reason. Everything you've been through, the loss, the loneliness, the breaking down of your former self, was preparing you for this moment. That knowing inside you, the one that doesn't shout but quietly insists, is your power. The inner voice that speaks of peace, truth, and boldness that is your mission calling you forward. You are not just a seeker anymore. You are a carrier of light, a vessel for truth, a walking embodiment of divine wisdom. And the universe is asking, will you use what you've learned? Or will you keep hoarding wisdom like a collector of trinkets never to be used? Your spiritual alignment is not passive, it's purposeful. You're not here to simply feel enlightened. You're here to create, to awaken others, to speak when it's uncomfortable, to build what doesn't yet exist. There is no more waiting, no more asking for permission. You have already received the signs. You've already been shown who you are. You've already walked through fire and survived the storm. The illusions are no longer convincing. The fear no longer fits. The need for validation has burned away. What remains is your true self, ready, able, and needed. This is the shift. From observation to participation. From awareness to embodiment. From vision to movement. You are the one meant to lead, not because you asked for it, but because your soul was chosen for it. You are no longer lost in awakening. You are aligned in action, and the universe is watching, ready to respond the moment you step forward in full trust. Are you ready to step into your true mission? If your awakening has prepared you for aligned action, comment below. I am ready to serve, to declare your commitment, and inspire others to rise into purpose. 2. The urgency of this moment. You've been feeling restless, for a reason. It's not anxiety, not confusion. It's your soul recognizing that you're standing at the threshold of transformation. This feeling isn't a warning, it's a signal, a sacred reminder that your spiritual awakening is no longer just a process, it's now a calling. The time for asking questions, collecting teachings, and staying in preparation mode has passed. You've already gathered the wisdom. Now, it's time to embody it. Everything you've been through, the heartbreaks, the solitude, the inner revelations, the long nights of doubt, followed by quiet mornings of clarity, has led you here. But here's the truth. Spiritual awakening is not a forever phase. It was never meant to be your destination. It was your training ground. Many stay stuck in the cycle of seeking because it feels safe. But the chosen ones know when it's time to move forward, not by force, but through full alignment with who they've become. You didn't come here just to feel enlightened. You came to live as enlightenment in action. That means speaking your truth when it's uncomfortable, trusting your inner knowing over outer noise, and embodying the peace, the strength, and the wisdom that awakening has revealed to you. This is the moment where you step into mastery, not through perfection, but through presence. In the modern world, it's tempting to think we always need more knowledge, more signs, more confirmations. But chasing more is often a subtle form of self-doubt. You don't need another guru, another message, another meditation to prove you're ready. You are ready because you exist. You are ready because your breath still flows. You are ready because life is calling you to serve, to lead, to create, to be now. It's like someone who trains for years but never shows up to the race. At some point, the training becomes a delay tactic. The identity of the seeker becomes a shield that prevents the doer and the healer and the leader from emerging. You're not here to hide anymore. You're here to rise, to stand, to become. The most powerful version of yourself is not waiting somewhere far away. It's the part of you that chooses to act with purpose today. This is the difference between knowing the light and being the light, between understanding love and walking in love, between talking about alignment and living aligned. You've already crossed the hardest part. You've awakened. You've seen the truth. Now the only question left is, will you live it? Your power was never in the knowledge you collected. It's in the embodiment of that knowledge. That's how timelines shift. That's how others are inspired. That's how you fulfill the mission you were sent here to complete. The urgency you feel is divine. It's not pressure, it's presence. The universe isn't rushing you. It's reminding you. This is the moment you've been preparing for your whole life. Don't hesitate. If you feel the pull of something greater, it's because your time is now. No more waiting. No more hiding. Comment below. I am ready to become who I truly am. If you feel the urgency of stepping fully into your power. 3. Awakening was meant to shake and rebuild you. Awakening was never meant to be a permanent state. It was designed to burn away everything that wasn't truly you. Your false identity, your need for external validation, your programmed fears. It came to shake your foundation, not to destroy you, but to rebuild you from the soul up. You were never meant to live in the fire. You were meant to walk through it, rise from it, and carry its light. But many get stuck. They confuse the path of awakening with the destination. They keep reading, listening, meditating, waiting for some ultimate sign that they are finally ready. But that sign is already within you. The constant seeking becomes a trap, a distraction dressed up as spiritual growth. There comes a point when you must stop consuming and start creating. You didn't awaken just to sit in stillness. You awakened to move energy, to shift realities, to live in alignment with the truth you now know. Your soul was never meant to be a passive student of wisdom. It came here to apply it. All the knowledge you've absorbed, the pain you've processed, the illusions you've shed, they were never the end goal. They were preparation. You are not here to only hold light. You are here to embody it. It's time to become the message you've been listening to, the healing you've been chasing, the strength you've been searching for. You are the answer to someone else's prayer. You are the light at the end of someone else's tunnel. But the world cannot receive what you refuse to release. Creation is your next step. Whether it's writing, speaking, leading, or simply showing up in your authenticity, this is how your power activates. This is how you shift from awakening to embodiment. This is how you move from knowing the truth to living it. The fear will still whisper. It will tell you you're not ready. But readiness isn't a feeling. It's a choice. The ego seeks perfection. The soul moves with purpose. You are ready because you've been called. You are ready because you've been through the fire. You are ready because the world needs what you carry. So no more waiting, no more questioning, no more shrinking to fit an old version of yourself. Awakening shook you for a reason, but now the shaking is done. It's time to step forward, to use your power, to become the embodiment of all that you've learned. The season of seeking is over. The season of becoming has begun. If this message stirred something in you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful insights like this. It's time to stop consuming and start creating your truth. Comment below. I am ready to rise and build my true self. 4. You were chosen for a purpose. You were chosen for a purpose. Not by coincidence, not by accident, but by divine intention. Your awakening wasn't random. It was a spiritual assignment, a call to remember who you truly are beneath the noise of this world. You didn't just wake up to feel enlightened. You woke up to become a force of transformation. The spiritual shift happening across the planet isn't just something you observe, it's something you're meant to help lead. And this leadership doesn't come from ego, power, or control. It comes from alignment, embodiment, and courage. You were called because your soul said yes, long before your mind understood what it meant. You were never meant to wait for angels, guides, or mentors to hand you the answers. They are here, yes, but their role is to nudge you, not carry you. Their whispers can remind you, but they can't act on your behalf. Only you can do that. Only you can stand up and say, I am ready to rise. The chosen ones are not chosen to be passive. They are chosen to step forward when it's inconvenient, to walk in truth when the world prefers illusion, to shine when darkness demands silence. You're not here to wait for signs, you're here to be the sign. There comes a time when learning must give way to doing, when knowing must transform into becoming. This is that time. You've learned the lessons, seen the synchronicities, gone through the fire of growth. Now the question is no longer, what is my purpose, but will I live it? The world is aching for those who are spiritually awake and spiritually active. Not perfect, not all-knowing, but available, willing to use their voice, their energy, their presence as a vessel of light. You don't have to save the world, but you do have to show up for the piece of it that was assigned to you. Living your purpose is not about striving. It's about surrendering to the truth that already lives inside you. When you stop waiting for the right time and start walking in divine time, doors open. Clarity finds you. People are moved by your energy because it's real, not rehearsed. You were chosen because you were built for this. Your pain taught you empathy. Your isolation trained your discernment. Your setbacks gave you resilience. You are not behind. You are right on schedule. No one can activate your mission for you. No one else can speak your truth. This responsibility is sacred. You were not chosen to stay hidden. You were chosen to embody the shift. The awakening was just the beginning. Now, it's time to rise and become what you came here to be. If this message has stirred something deep within you, leave a comment of faith. I accept my divine purpose. I am ready to rise and fulfill my calling. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a message meant for your awakening. 5. The mission after awakening. Real spiritual maturity isn't about how many affirmations you recite or how many hours you meditate. It's about embodiment, where your actions match your knowing, and your presence speaks louder than your words. You've already awakened. You've peeled back the layers, seen through illusions, and walked through darkness with only your inner light to guide you. But now comes the real work. Living it. Living truthfully. Living powerfully. Living like someone who remembers why they came here in the first place. You're not here to stay in a cycle of endless seeking. You're here to become the message, to hold the vibration of what you've learned so deeply that people feel it before you even speak. Your power isn't in how much you know, it's in how fully you show up. It's in how you stay calm when everything around you shakes. It's in the way you respond to pain without losing your compassion. It's in your ability to walk with integrity when no one is watching. That's what it means to live your awakening. There was a woman who, after years of studying every spiritual book she could find, found herself completely broken. Her marriage collapsed, her business failed, and her health declined. All the knowledge she had collected suddenly felt useless. But in that moment of silence, she heard the truth clearly. This is the moment your training was for. She stopped reaching for new answers and started applying what she already knew. She showed up, not perfectly, but powerfully, with clarity, with presence. That shift changed everything, because she finally realized she wasn't meant to just understand the light. She was meant to be it. The world isn't looking for more talkers. It's crying out for those who embody what they believe. Those who don't just repeat truth, but radiate it. Those who can walk into a storm and still be calm. You've been chosen for this. Not to hide your light, but to let it lead. Not to wait for more confirmation, but to trust what's already inside you. Every delay, every wound, every lesson was preparing you not just to survive, but to lead. And now, the mission begins. To know the truth, but not live it, is to betray your own soul. The real initiation wasn't the awakening, it's what you do after. This is your invitation to rise, not someday, but now. To move with purpose, serve with love, speak with clarity, and walk with sacred authority. Your journey didn't end at awakening. It started there. And everything that comes next is what you were born for. If this message speaks to your soul, type, "I'm ready to live the truth," in the comments to affirm your commitment. The mission after awakening is real, and it begins with action. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so we can keep rising together. 6. the 7 signs that your awakening is complete. Sign 1. You no longer feel separate from the universe. You no longer search for divinity outside of yourself because you've realized it was never out there to begin with. The longing to connect with something greater has transformed into the deep knowing that you are that greatness in human form. This is not an intellectual belief. It's an embodied truth. You feel it in your breath, in the space between thoughts, in the quiet awareness that watches everything but resists nothing. You feel oneness with all that is not as a poetic idea, but as a living presence. The trees, the wind, the laughter of strangers, even the silence between words, all of it feels like part of you now. You've stopped labeling experiences as good or bad because you've seen the divine thread that weaves them all together. Peace is no longer a goal on the horizon. It flows from you, quietly and naturally, like sunlight through an open window. Resistance dissolves. You no longer fight against the unfolding of life because you've tasted the freedom of surrender. The need to prove yourself, fix everything, or force outcomes fades. You let go, not because you've given up, but because you've awakened to the deeper intelligence that governs all things. And this letting go is powerful. It opens space for miracles, synchronicities, and alignment that can't be orchestrated through force. You've become aware that your energy is not passive, it is creative. Every emotion, every intention, every thought is a frequency, and those frequencies shape reality. You notice how your internal shifts instantly reflect in your external world. When you're at peace, life becomes effortless. When you're in fear, chaos arises. This isn't punishment, it's reflection. And now, you respond to life as a conscious artist, not a victim of circumstance. The old self that searched endlessly for answers has dissolved into the quiet power of presence. You don't need constant validation, spiritual highs, or dramatic signs anymore. Your presence is the sign. You are the miracle you once begged for. There is no longer a wall between you and the universe. There is only unity, only flow, only truth. And from this sacred space, your purpose begins not in striving, but in simply being. That is when you know. The awakening is complete. Not because you have all the answers, but because you've stopped asking questions that separate you from what already lives within. Sign 2. Your intuition guides you without doubt. You trust your inner voice fully now. There is no longer a need for endless signs, approval from others, or carefully crafted pros and cons lists. You just know. The clarity doesn't come from logic, it comes from alignment. You don't chase certainty, because certainty has taken root within you. It's not about confidence in outcomes anymore. It's about confidence in the knowing that lives inside your soul. That knowing does not scream. It does not compete. It simply speaks, and you listen. In this stage, fear is no longer your decision maker. Confusion no longer clouds your mind. You've outgrown the habit of seeking outside answers because you finally realized your energy speaks louder than your thoughts. Your body responds before your mind finishes the question. The shift happens quietly, and yet it changes everything. You no longer ask, "Is this the right path?" You feel it. You sense the expansion. You recognize the contraction. And you follow that guidance, not because you're sure of what's next, but because you're sure of yourself. There is a moment in every chosen one's journey when the need for external validation disappears. What replaces it is not arrogance, it's peace. a peace that doesn't beg for permission, a peace that moves through uncertainty like water, flowing where it needs to go. You stop chasing signs. You stop waiting for the perfect conditions. You act because it feels right, not because it looks right. This is the power of deep spiritual alignment. It doesn't ask for proof. It simply moves in truth. When you trust your intuition, you no longer stall in hesitation. There's a calm decisiveness in your presence. People around you may not understand. They might say, "You've changed." And they're right. You've stopped performing for a world that taught you to doubt your own inner wisdom. You've chosen to trust the whisper instead of the noise. You've chosen the internal compass over the external map. You've stopped asking for directions to a place your soul already knows how to find. This is the transition from awakening to embodiment. Intuition becomes your leadership. Faith becomes your foundation. You no longer check 10 times before taking one step. You just move. And in that movement, life rearranges itself to meet your energy. This is not magic. This is spiritual maturity. The ability to move without needing to be convinced. The ability to know without having to explain. The ability to feel aligned and trust it, even when it makes no sense to the outside world. You have graduated from waiting, from questioning, from doubting. Your power now lies in presence, in listening to the quiet pull that says, "This way." That quiet pull is your path. That gentle nudge is your direction. And you follow, not because it's easy, but because it's true. Sign 3. Material desires no longer control you. You no longer chase money, status, or validation because something deep inside you has awakened. You've outgrown the need to impress others with what you wear, what you own, or how much you earn. Your soul no longer feeds on attention. Instead, you find nourishment in alignment. Material things can still bring you joy, but they no longer define you. They no longer pull you into cycles of overworking, proving, or pretending. You've remembered who you are beyond the brands, the titles, the applause. This is the sign of true transformation. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. This is how the law of attraction really works. It responds not to your desperation, but to your vibration. The energy you carry now speaks louder than your words. You've chosen peace over pressure, purpose over possessions. The old version of you needed more just to feel enough. But now, you are enough, with or without more. And from that place of wholeness, abundance flows to you with ease. You've discovered that fulfillment isn't found in what you accumulate, but in how deeply you align. No amount of luxury can compare to the richness of inner peace. No praise can replace the still voice of your spirit saying, "I am home." You've realized that manifestation is not about owning everything, but about owning your truth. Your energy is the currency now. And when you spend it on what's real, gratitude, growth, presence, the universe multiplies your return. You are no longer a servant to material desires. You are the master of your reality. Your spiritual awakening has taught you to see through illusions. You now walk with power, but not the kind that shouts. It's a quiet, magnetic power rooted in detachment and clarity. And because of this, life meets you differently. Opportunities show up, not because you hustle, but because you're in harmony. People feel your calm, your focus, your light, and they're drawn to it. This is freedom. You're not running after things, hoping they'll complete you. You're standing still in your truth, and all that's meant for you begins to arrive. You no longer beg for doors to open. They open when you knock with purpose. You no longer sacrifice your peace to keep up. You slow down, and life speeds up in your favor. The more you surrender, the more you receive. Not from force, but from flow. Not from lack, but from alignment. Not from noise, but from stillness. Sign 4. You have embraced solitude and found peace. Silence no longer unsettles you. It empowers you. What once felt like a void is now a sacred sanctuary where your spirit breathes and your mind rests. You've stopped resisting the stillness, and instead, you've learned to listen to what it reveals. In the quiet, you no longer hear echoes of loneliness or fear. Instead, you hear your truth. Silence has become your teacher, your healer, your refuge. It's where you recharge, reconnect, and remember who you are. You've begun to honor your energy so deeply that anything misaligned simply can't stay. You no longer tolerate conversations that feel empty or relationships that pull you away from your peace. You don't shrink to fit into old spaces, nor do you pretend to be less so. Others feel more. This is spiritual awakening in motion. It's the silent refusal to entertain what drains your soul. It's the unseen power of walking away from noise, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. You've outgrown superficiality and stepped into alignment. Now, your vibration speaks before you do. Being alone no longer feels like abandonment. It feels like home. You've stopped seeking constant connection because you've cultivated the most powerful one of all, the connection with yourself. You enjoy your own presence. You understand that solitude is not emptiness. It's sacred space. It's in your stillness that new visions are born. It's in your isolation that your purpose gets louder. You've reached a state where your inner world is so full, you no longer need external noise to feel alive. You have become magnetic not by force, but by presence. Solitude has sharpened your discernment. It has made you precise with your time, intentional with your focus, and protective of your peace. You now recognize that every encounter, every word, every thought carries energy, and you choose what you allow into your sacred space. Your boundaries are no longer walls. They are invitations for only what is pure, true, and aligned. Your aura is no longer porous. It is powerful. You no longer beg to be understood. You simply continue to evolve, trusting that those meant for your frequency will feel your light without explanation. You have stopped chasing and started attracting. You understand the law of attraction not as a tool of control, but as a reflection of energetic alignment. You do not manifest from desperation. You manifest from peace, from clarity, from presence. Your life has become a living prayer, and your solitude has become the altar. In this sacred stillness, manifestation flows like breath. There is no force, only flow. This is spiritual maturity. This is what it means to awaken and rise, not in chaos, but in calm, not in noise, but in knowing. You are no longer searching for peace. You are living as peace. And because of that, your presence now shifts rooms, not by what you say, but by who you've become. Sign 5. You naturally attract people who need your light. People are drawn to you because your energy has become a silent call. You no longer seek validation or attention. Instead, your very presence radiates something real, something pure. It's not about the words you speak, but the frequency you carry. After everything you've been through, the lessons, the healing, the shedding of false layers, you now emit a vibration that speaks louder than any voice. Others can feel it. They may not know why they feel safe around you or why they're suddenly opening up their deepest truths. But something about you feels like home, like truth, like light. That's because you've become a vessel for something greater. And in a world where most are still asleep, that makes you magnetic. As your light expands, you begin to notice a pattern. The people entering your life are no longer random. They're reflections, mirrors, messengers. Some walk alongside you for a while because their soul resonates with your path. Others arrive with chaos in their hearts, seeking peace they haven't earned. And then there are those who don't even understand why they're drawn to you. They just know that your presence soothes something inside them. That's what happens when your spiritual awakening is complete. You stop needing answers, and you start becoming one. You attract not because you try, but because you are. Energy doesn't lie. But the truth is, not everyone who is drawn to your light is worthy of it. Some come to take, to drain, to feed off the peace you've built with blood, sweat, and sacred tears. These are the ones who haven't faced themselves yet. They want your frequency without doing the work to raise their own. And this is why your next step, now that your awakening has matured, is to master spiritual boundaries. You cannot pour into everyone. Your light is powerful, but it's also sacred, and sacred things must be protected. You must learn to say no, to walk away, to shield your peace like a priceless treasure. Because it is. There's a woman who used to give all of herself to everyone, friends, students, even strangers. Her presence felt healing to others, and they would come to her, uninvited but desperate for light. At first, she thought this was her purpose to be the light for others. But over time, she began to feel drained, disconnected, even resentful. That's when she realized, being the light doesn't mean you set yourself on fire to warm others. She learned to protect her energy, to only give from a place of overflow, not obligation. And from that space, her light didn't fade, it grew stronger. You've reached that point now. You're not here to save everyone. You're here to be the frequency that reminds others of their own power. Your energy has become a transmission, a signal for those ready to rise. So guard it, own it, and understand this. Your presence is no longer just a gift, it's an invitation. But only those with the courage to honor it should be allowed through the door. Sign 6. You can see through deception and illusions. You can now sense deception with a kind of spiritual precision that wasn't available to you before. Lies feel heavy in the air. Manipulation stands out like flashing lights. Even the subtle illusions embedded in society's systems, media, politics, expectations no longer have power over your mind. You don't just see things on the surface anymore. You see through them. What used to confuse or control you has lost its grip. And that's because your inner truth has grown louder than the world's noise. You are no longer ruled by fear-based control systems. Fear may still exist around you, but it doesn't live in you anymore. You don't respond to the fear-mongering headlines, the emotional manipulation from others, or the energetic pressure to conform. You've unplugged from the frequency of fear and tuned into the higher vibration of truth. Now, your compass is clarity, not panic. Your guide is intuition, not anxiety. The way you make decisions has changed entirely. You're not influenced by peer pressure, social approval, or programmed reactions. Instead, your choices come from inner alignment. You know when something feels off, even when others call it normal. You pause. You reflect. You listen to that voice inside that says, This isn't right for me. You walk away without guilt. You say no without explanation. You protect your peace like it's sacred because now you understand that it is. Seeing through illusion also means seeing through fear itself. You've realized that most fear is manufactured, an energetic fog meant to distract you from your power. But you've walked through that fog and found clarity on the other side. And with that clarity comes freedom. You no longer live in reaction mode. You live with intention. You no longer seek safety and approval. You find safety in presence, in energy, in knowing who you are and who you were sent here to be. The most powerful shift is this: you no longer believe the world outside of you has more authority than the truth inside of you. That realization changes everything. You're no longer searching. You're embodying. You're no longer waiting. You're moving. What once scared you now fuels you. What once confused you now empowers you. The illusions fell away, and what remained was your power, your vision, your voice. And now, you use that power. You speak when it's uncomfortable. You stand tall when the world wants you to shrink. You live from the soul, not the script. This is what happens when awakening ends. It transforms into embodiment. You don't just talk about light anymore. You become the light. And that light exposes everything false, not to shame others, but to awaken them too. Because when one chosen one sees through illusion, the energy ripples. When one soul stops fearing fear, it shifts the atmosphere. When you choose truth over comfort, you show others what's possible. You didn't come here to be passive. You came here to break patterns, to radiate higher frequencies, to manifest a reality rooted in love, sovereignty, and spiritual wisdom. You came here to see through the dark and still choose the light. And now, you are doing exactly that. Sign 7. You feel a strong call to step into your mission. You no longer think about your purpose. You feel it vibrating through every part of your being. It's not a mental exercise or a philosophical question anymore. It's a living truth that wakes with you in the morning and follows you into the night. You feel called not by logic, but by something sacred and beyond words. This pull isn't casual or convenient. It's urgent, divine, and unmistakable. You're no longer seeking signs because the feeling itself is the sign. It lives in your gut, in your chest, in your bones. The days of observation are over. Watching, waiting, analyzing it doesn't satisfy your soul anymore. A restlessness has grown inside you, not from lack, but from fullness. You've learned, you've healed, you've awakened, and now that wisdom wants to become action. You can't stay still. You weren't built to stay still. There's a fire rising inside of you that won't be tamed by passivity. You're ready to step forward, not because you know every detail of the path, but because the silence of inaction has become louder than the fear of failure. Even without certainty, you feel ready. You may not have all the steps laid out. You may not have perfect clarity or external validation. But something in you knows. This is the moment. You've stopped asking for permission and started walking with intention. You're no longer looking for external proof. You've become your own confirmation. The knowing within you is stronger than the questions around you. And even in uncertainty, you are grounded in trust. That trust is your foundation. That inner fire is your compass. Every day, the mission calls to you louder, and you no longer ignore it. You understand now that being chosen doesn't mean being perfect, it means being willing. Willing to show up, willing to risk, willing to be seen. You're no longer just a student of awakening. You are the embodiment of its completion. You've shifted from absorbing light to radiating it. You've stopped consuming truth and started living it. This is your moment of transition, your turning point from the seeker to the one who serves. What once felt like a distant calling now feels like a command from the soul. You don't need all the answers. You need only to take the next faithful step. You were never meant to awaken just to stay awake. You were meant to awaken so you could rise, lead, heal, and create. The time is no longer someday. The time is now. As we uncover these 7 signs, take a moment to honor how far you've come on your spiritual path. Your presence here shows you're not just awakening, you're evolving. Comment below, "My awakening is complete, and I am ready to live in truth." Let this be your affirmation as you step into your highest self. Your awakening was never the end. It was the beginning of your true purpose. Now, it's time to embody everything you've learned and use your gifts with confidence. The world needs your light more than ever. If this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself like this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more powerful insights. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of your soul's journey. Your time is now. Step forward. Shine boldly. Carl Jung's warning about empaths. It's darker than you think. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. At Spiritual Wisdom, we believe that awakening begins with awareness. And for empaths, that awareness often feels like both a gift and a burden. In this video, we'll explore Carl Jung's deeper and more unsettling warning about the empathic path truths that are rarely spoken but urgently needed. These insights aren't just theory. They're a mirror to help you navigate your emotions, protect your energy, and grow into your highest self. As you watch, ask yourself, how has your empathy shaped your relationships and your identity? Share your reflections in the comments, and let's awaken together. 1. Empathy is an archetypal, not just emotional, gift. True empaths are not just emotionally sensitive individuals. They are psychic conduits through which unseen forces pass. While modern culture paints empathy as a gentle gift, Carl Jung's deeper insight reveals something far more complex. The empath does not simply feel with others. Instead, they absorb emotional energy like a sponge, often unknowingly channeling the unresolved pain of others, the tension of the collective, and even the echoes of ancestral trauma. This isn't sentimentality. This is soul work. Empathy, in its truest form, is archetypal. It belongs not to the ego, but to the realm of the unconscious. Jung understood that empaths are intimately connected to powerful, universal patterns that stretch far beyond personal experience. They are tapped into the undercurrent of humanity's unspoken sorrow. And this is why their burden is so heavy. They may feel grief without cause, carry anxiety that doesn't originate from their own life, or wake with dread that belongs to the emotional atmosphere of society itself. This capacity to feel deeply and widely isn't always a blessing. Empaths often suffer because they don't know where their emotions end and another's begin. They walk through the world absorbing the invisible, a fight between light and shadow that most people don't even realize is happening. This is not a gift for the faint of heart, and it is rarely acknowledged for the spiritual weight it carries. Without awareness, the empath may drown in what they carry. But with spiritual wisdom, they learn to navigate the tides. What's most dangerous is that the world doesn't often recognize the true empath. Instead of seeing a sacred mirror, society labels them as too emotional, too sensitive, or too dramatic. In truth, the empath is reflecting what others can't bear to see in themselves. Their energy exposes repression. Their presence stirs buried pain. And that's why many people unconsciously reject them, not because of who they are, but because of what they awaken. Spiritual wisdom teaches that energy must be discerned, not just felt. And this is the empath's task, to learn what is theirs to carry and what is not. This requires deep boundaries, not walls, but intelligent filters that allow clarity to pass and distortion to be blocked. Without this skill, the empath becomes a dumping ground for the collective shadow. But when mastered, their sensitivity becomes a superpower, not for attention, not for approval, but for alchemy. The empath is not here to be comfortable. They are here to transform pain into presence, emotion into awareness, darkness into light. That's the deeper role Jung pointed to, not the romanticized empath, but the archetypal vessel. And if one does not understand this role, they risk being consumed by it. But when understood through the lens of spiritual wisdom, empathy becomes something else entirely. Not a burden, but a sacred path. Have you ever felt emotions that didn't seem to belong to you, like you were carrying the weight of something ancient or collective? If so, share your experience in the comments below so others can feel seen too. And if you're just starting to explore your empathic gift, type, "I'm open to understanding," so we can walk this path of spiritual discovery together. 2. Unconscious empathy leads to possession and self-loss. When empaths operate unconsciously, they don't just feel others' emotions, they become entangled in them. Without clear boundaries, they absorb emotional pain like a sponge, often mistaking it for their own. They carry the weight of unresolved trauma, shadows, and psychic debris that do not belong to them. This isn't simply compassion, it's energetic possession. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." For the unaware empath, this fate takes the form of emotional confusion, chronic fatigue, and the gradual erasure of self. Their identity begins to blur. Their center becomes unstable, and they live in a state of constant emotional flooding, like a mirror that reflects every wound but forgets its own face. This merging of energies is dangerous because it pulls the empath into other people's inner chaos, leaving them haunted by emotions that aren't theirs. These inner disturbances often surface in dreams, mirrors that twist their reflection, caves that trap them in darkness, and ghost-like figures symbolizing energies that need release. These are not just poetic images. They are the language of the unconscious trying to speak. They reveal a life lived for others, a self that has been eclipsed. The empath becomes a silent witness to pain, yet internally cries out for boundaries that were never taught. And so the spiritual burden deepens. True spiritual awakening begins not with more feeling, but with more awareness. It is not about absorbing more, but about learning what to let go. The empath must awaken to the fact that their ability to feel is not a curse, but neither is it a blank check to carry everyone's suffering. They must stop confusing love with self-sacrifice and instead embody discernment, the wisdom to know what is theirs to hold and what is theirs to release. This awakening demands inner work, grounding, energetic boundaries, and the courage to confront patterns of over-responsibility. It is only when the empath reclaims their energy that healing begins. Spiritual awakening is the process of returning to the self, not the role, not the mask, not the emotional caretaker, but the soul behind it all. The empath must learn to stand still in their own truth, without flinching, without shrinking, without merging. As Rumi said, "Don't get lost in your pain. Know that one day your pain will become your cure." For the awakened empath, that cure comes when they finally stop rescuing others at the cost of abandoning themselves. They don't stop loving, but they stop leaking. They don't stop caring, but they stop collapsing. They become clear vessels of light rather than foggy mirrors of everyone else's sorrow. And in that clarity, they don't just survive, they rise. If this message resonated with you, don't hesitate to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. 3. Childhood trauma and ancestral pain shape the empath's identity. Many empaths don't become sensitive because they were born that way. They become empaths because they had to. In chaotic or emotionally unstable homes, they learned early on that tuning into others was a matter of safety, not choice. This wasn't a gift at first, it was survival. A child who has to monitor their parents' every mood to avoid punishment or rejection will grow up to become an adult who scans every room for danger, even if it's emotional. What looks like intuition is often the refined skill of reading people developed under pressure, under fear, under silence. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." For empaths, this couldn't be more true. Many are driven by unconscious wounds from the past, shaped by experiences they couldn't control. Worse still, it's not just personal trauma they carry, it's ancestral. The grief and unresolved pain of previous generations get passed down quietly through behaviors, emotional suppression, and spiritual disconnection. Empaths are often the ones in the family system who feel it all, who absorb what others deny. But without healing, that gift becomes a weight. They feel everything, but understand very little of where it comes from. And the result is exhaustion, confusion, and self-neglect. Take the example of a woman named Sarah. As a child, she lived in a home where her father was kind one moment and emotionally cold the next. To survive, she learned to become hyper-aware. She could sense when to speak, when to disappear, and when to comfort others at the expense of herself. That gift earned her praise later in life. People loved her empathy, her warmth, her ability to get them. But what they didn't see was the cost. Behind that emotional radar was a little girl who had never learned how to turn it off. Like many empaths, Sarah was living in reaction to her past, not in connection with her present. Carl Jung called this pattern the archetype of the wounded healer, those who seek to mend others while avoiding their own pain. Many empaths unconsciously fall into this pattern. They don't just help others out of compassion, they do it out of compulsion, believing that by fixing the outside world, they'll feel better inside. But this is a trap, because empathy without boundaries is not love, it's self-abandonment. And when empathy becomes a reflex, not a choice, it drains you. You give and give until there's nothing left, and then you wonder why you feel invisible. The truth is, healing begins when you stop making your empathy a job and start making it a choice. You don't owe the world your exhaustion. You owe yourself restoration. You don't need to carry the pain of every person you meet to prove your worth. Your sensitivity is sacred, but it was never meant to be used as a shield or a burden. It was meant to guide you, not enslave you. Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom teaches us that the shadow we don't face becomes the life we unconsciously live. If your empathy was shaped in trauma, then reclaim it through awareness. Turn it from a reaction into a sacred practice. Learn to feel without losing yourself. This isn't about feeling less. It's about feeling wisely. Do you feel this truth in your bones? If you do, declare it boldly in the comments. I am healing generations through my empathy. 4. The shadow side of empathy must be confronted. Empathy can be a quiet disguise for the ego. Beneath the surface of care, there often lies a deep, unspoken need to be seen as important, to be irreplaceable, to be the one others cannot do without. This craving to help can become less about love and more about control. And what appears as compassion can be a silent strategy to escape our own wounds. Carl Jung understood this paradox deeply, that even our most admired traits have a shadow side. When we give endlessly, we may tell ourselves it's because we care, but sometimes we give because we're afraid to look within. Overhelping becomes a pattern. It looks like love, but it's laced with fear. It's the fear of not mattering unless we're needed. It's the avoidance of our own inner pain by fixing everyone else's. And when this happens, empathy no longer serves healing. It serves ego survival. We become emotionally entangled, mistaking sacrifice for virtue and self-erasure for devotion. In truth, we are often trying to soothe ourselves by saving someone else. This kind of empathy is exhausting. It drains the soul because it's not rooted in wholeness, but in fragmentation. We overextend. We absorb pain that's not ours to carry. We merge so deeply with others' suffering that we forget who we are. And the deeper tragedy is that in trying to be everything for everyone, we slowly disappear. What we call compassion becomes a mask we wear to avoid facing our own unmet needs. Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom urges us to step back, not to stop caring, but to care consciously. The true empath does not rescue to avoid loneliness. They do not absorb to feel worthy. They do not give endlessly just to be loved. Instead, they learn to hold space without losing themselves. They recognize when their helping is actually hiding. They set energetic boundaries not out of coldness, but out of clarity. Empathy without boundaries becomes codependency. Compassion without awareness becomes emotional manipulation. This is the dark side that must be acknowledged. It is only when we confront these truths that our empathy transforms into power, not the power to fix others, but the power to remain rooted in our own center while still offering love. Jung teaches that everything we do, even the good, must be examined through the lens of self-awareness. Because healing isn't about giving all of ourselves away, it's about becoming whole within, so that what we offer is clean, free, and conscious. The real spiritual wisdom is this: empathy is not just about feeling what others feel. It's about knowing when the feeling isn't yours to hold. If you're ready to confront the shadow side of your empathy and reclaim your true self, comment below. I choose truth over illusion. Let's walk this path of self-awareness together. 5. The true empathy requires boundaries and inner strength. True empathy is not about becoming a sponge for other people's emotions. It's not about soaking in pain until you can't tell where their suffering ends and yours begins. That is emotional fusion, not compassion. Real empathy is witnessing without merging. It's the art of holding space for another soul while remaining anchored in your own. It's saying, I feel you, but I am not you. And that one sentence marks the beginning of a spiritual awakening. Because to awaken is not simply to feel more, it is to see more clearly, to recognize where your energy ends and someone else's begins. Without that clarity, empaths are not gifted. They are exhausted, drained, dissolved into the chaos of the world around them. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." That includes the part of you that wants to help, heal, and hold everyone, but also the part that must say no. Boundaries are not selfish. They are sacred. They are spiritual muscles, forged through discernment and self-trust. A sponge absorbs everything indiscriminately, but a sovereign vessel chooses what it allows in. An empath who is awakened is no longer a victim of energy. They are a guardian of it. Sensitivity is not a weakness. It is a raw perception. But when untrained, it becomes suffering. You can't save others by losing yourself. Empathy, without grounding, becomes self-erasure. But empathy with inner strength becomes a force of healing. You don't need to become harder. You need to become clearer. Clear about your limits. Clear about your role. Clear that your purpose is not to carry everyone, but to hold truth when others have forgotten it. This is the path from sponge to sovereign. The journey from drowning in emotion to becoming a vessel of divine clarity. It is spiritual wisdom in action, the awakening of selfhood, not the denial of it. The more you know yourself, the less likely you are to confuse someone else's chaos for your responsibility. The world doesn't need more people who feel everything. It needs more people who feel deeply and still remain rooted. That is true empathy. That is spiritual awakening. Don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on transforming empathy from emotional overload into grounded strength and sacred boundaries. 6. Conscious empathy is alchemical and transformative. When an empath awakens, something profound happens. They stop being overwhelmed by the emotions of others and begin transmuting that pain into wisdom. No longer a passive vessel for suffering, the conscious empath becomes a living mirror, not of wounds, but of possibility. They begin to reflect strength, insight, and clarity instead of absorbing confusion and emotional weight. This is the alchemical power of conscious empathy, the kind Carl Jung hinted at when he said, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people." Instead of rescuing others and losing themselves in the process, awakened empaths learn to hold space. They guide through presence, not control. They love without attachment, without draining their spirit. Their empathy no longer burns them out. It lights the way for others. Jung understood that the unconscious drives most human behavior. And so, when a conscious empath reflects someone's truth back to them, they disrupt the patterns that keep that person asleep. Their presence alone can awaken hidden potential because they've done the work to awaken their own. This kind of empathy requires deep inner strength. It is not soft and fragile. It is sharp, clear, and rooted. It's the kind of empathy that sees through projection, through manipulation, through performance. A conscious empath can feel everything and still remain centered. They've learned that not every emotion they sense belongs to them, and not every soul in pain is theirs to heal. Take Jenna, for example. A nurse and a natural empath, she spent years absorbing the pain of her patients. Every night she came home drained, thinking that this exhaustion was simply part of being a good person. But after stumbling upon Carl Jung's writings and beginning to explore the unconscious roots of her behavior, she realized that her empathy had become martyrdom. She began to build boundaries not as walls to shut others out, but as sacred containers to preserve her energy. She stopped identifying with pain and started channeling it into presence. Today, she still feels deeply, but she no longer drowns. She reflects strength because she has claimed her own. Empathy without consciousness is chaos. But empathy fused with self-awareness becomes spiritual clarity. It transforms reactive emotion into intentional connection. It stops being about taking on the burdens of others and starts being about illuminating the truth within them. This is what Carl Jung meant when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." True empathy is not sacrifice, it's transmutation. And when you learn to feel everything without losing yourself, when you choose presence over performance, you don't just heal, you become the healer. You don't carry the weight of the world, you carry the light that helps others see their own. If this message resonated with your soul, leave a comment of intention. I choose conscious empathy. I transmute pain into light. And don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on walking the path with clarity, strength, and love. 7. The journey requires individuation and daily self-awareness. The empath's path is not merely about feeling deeply. It's about becoming radically self-aware. Carl Jung didn't romanticize empathy. He saw it as a profound psychic function that, if left unchecked, could lead to distortion, projection, and exhaustion. The true journey of the empath is individuation, the lifelong work of becoming whole through conscious self-reflection, shadow integration, and inner alignment. To walk this path is to commit to a daily discipline of asking, "Is this mine?" A question that seems simple, but holds immense spiritual weight. Because without asking it, the empath risks carrying burdens that never belonged to them in the first place. This question creates a pause, a sacred moment where the empath chooses sovereignty over absorption. In that moment, spiritual wisdom begins to take root. Empathy becomes conscious rather than compulsive. You no longer feel everything as yours, but rather you learn to feel with clarity and boundaries. And that is not coldness. That is a sacred responsibility. Jung warned that when we avoid the work of individuation, we inevitably project our unhealed parts onto others. Empaths, by their very nature, become mirrors for that projection, absorbing unresolved pain, guilt, or shame that others unconsciously disown. The result? Emotional overload, spiritual fatigue, and a slow erosion of the self. That's why individuation is not optional. It is essential. It's not about detaching from the world, but about anchoring more deeply into your truth. Emotional honesty becomes your compass, not just in relationships, but within your own inner world. You stop abandoning yourself for the comfort of others. You stop mistaking spiritual martyrdom for compassion. You begin to see that being an empath is not about being everything for everyone. It's about becoming whole for yourself. And the more whole you become, the more grounded your empathy becomes. It transforms from reaction to presence, from chaos to clarity. Your intuition sharpens. Your energy stabilizes. You become a calm center in a world full of noise. That's the gift of spiritual wisdom. It doesn't numb your sensitivity. It hones it. It teaches you that your light isn't meant to be a lifeline for everyone drowning. It's meant to be a beacon, showing others what self-possession and integrity look like. The empath, who walks the path of individuation, no longer asks, "How do I help everyone?" but rather, "How do I stay true to myself in every interaction?" That shift changes everything. It is not selfishness, it is sacred alignment. Because when you honor your own energy, you stop leaking it into people, places, and problems that are not yours to heal. You begin to trust that your presence, your truth, your clarity, without overextension, is enough. And that is when you move from surviving empathy to embodying it with grace, power, and peace. If this message resonates with your soul, leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful insights like this. Comment below. I commit to my daily journey of self-awareness and soul alignment. And so, remember, being an empath is not just about feeling deeply. It's about carrying unseen burdens, navigating invisible forces, and walking a path that few understand. Carl Jung's warning reminds us that the gift of sensitivity is also a responsibility, a spiritual calling to face what others deny. If this message spoke to your soul, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with those who need to hear it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Turn on notifications so you never miss another insight that could transform your inner world. Your journey is sacred. Let's walk it together.